Right here in our hand, the Magic Morning Crew lives for this. And if you get the chance, get you one. A green canteen is what it's called, I think. And Mike, that's probably about, 20 ounces of coffee?
You're looking at around 20. Yeah, 16 to 20 in that range. Anyway.
I filled that baby up at a little bit after 5 this morning when I left the house.
Yeah.
Still too hot to drink.
What's your problem? Why do you still have it?
I'm a sissy.
Drink that thing.
I'm a sissy. Anyways, Mike Barrett, we mentioned in with good policies this week. We had a good chat last week, Mike, when we were talking about to file or not to file.
To file the claim or not to file the claim, that is the question.
Let's do a little rehash on that, okay?
I think it's a good idea. And one of the key points we talked about last week was, we talked about many key points, but one in particular that I wanted to start with today is that, you want to always keep in mind that you don't have control of the impact necessarily of filing a claim. And what do I mean by that? I will tell you that usually in the top 5 questions that I get when a claim is about to be filed, will this impact my insurance cost? That is a magic 8-ball or a crystal ball question. It's going to be hard to really calculate it because it can vary differently from company to company, and not knowing what the magnitude of the claim is, i.e. what the total payout will be, that's also going to be a factor.
As a consumer, because I've never been in the insurance industry, I see it from this point of view, and you nailed it, okay? Now, I've never been a homeowner, so I haven't had to do a homeowner claim. And
Sure.
only 2 or 3 times in all of my years driving have I ever had to file a claim through my insurance company. But I can tell you my view on it is, oh my gosh, my insurance is going to go up. And that, I'm telling you, probably for the majority of our listeners out there, is the determining factor.
It really can be. How will this impact what I'm paying? Now, the thing of it is last week I talked about how I often find myself encouraging people to proceed with a claim because maybe they're facing a $2,500 expense and they're afraid. This would be most applicable like to auto, maybe a $2,500 little fender bender. And yes, that's what a little fender bender costs these days.
Nowadays, would completely replace my car.
But, they'll go, gosh, how's that going to, should I just not file the claim so won't have to worry about that additional expense? Things to think about. Frequency of claims is huge. So if you have a major frequency of claims, i.e. in the past 3 years, you've had more than a couple of claims, your biggest concern shouldn't be if your premium goes up. It should be if your insurance company is going to drop you completely. But if you haven't had claims and you have one claim, a lot of companies do have accident forgiveness if it's the first claim in 3 years. A lot of companies will only remove a credit called a loss-free credit. And of course, we're supposed to go, well, it's not really a penalty. You're losing a credit. That's all it is. Well, that is a penalty. You're losing a credit. But if your insurance is only going to go up maybe $40 a year, $50 a year, $100 a year. Remember, these claims only last 3 years on your history. And once that 3-year history is gone, you're back to zero as if no claims have happened if you've had no additional claims. So do you pay the $2,500 out of pocket to avoid paying maybe $300 more over the course of 3 years for your insurance? Heck no.
No.
That's why you have insurance. But you need to think about the frequency. Frequency is the biggest problem. Think about how long you've been with a company. Think about how much of a claim this is and how you can handle it. And think about if it's worthwhile to have, and just have a dialogue with your insurance agent as we can talk through it with you. If you're talking about deferring a $10,000 claim, you're crazy, first and foremost.
Of course.
Okay. But if you have $10,000 to spend to save $50 on your insurance, you have the power to do that. Not advisable. So
I'll share this with you, okay? Over the course of time, we'll use driving, okay? Because we mentioned that as an example with $2,500.
Yeah.
I've known some people in the past that have some absolutely horrible luck. I mean, bad luck.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that they're bad drivers.
No.
They're like me. They live in a world with a car that could be replaced for $2,500.
Exactly.
Something goes wrong with it. Or something went wrong with somebody else's car. Something happened. So over the course of a couple, 3, 4 years, they had to file a claim, their fault or not. Mm-hmm. They got dropped.
It can happen.
That is a fear.
And it's a real fear. And it can be, every company has a different way of doing it. If you're talking one of the big national companies, they have a little more of a tendency to drop you. And I'm not naming names. I'm just saying statistically, in the rough statistics that I've gathered over my years in the industry, I feel that those are the companies that may be more willing to part ways, whereas the regional companies that I'm familiar with are a little less likely. They're more forgiving in that fact. But, like I've had people who've had a house burned to the ground, and the company that insured them at the time said, well, we're done. Well, wait, whoa. And I personally don't get that, because if you have a house burned to the ground, come total loss, and they've now paid to rebuild the house, they've given you a brand new house.
You'd think they'd
Why
wanna
wouldn't
cover
you
it?
want to insure that?
Right.
Because now you have a safer risk than what you most likely had before.
If the house was older, it's going to have new wiring. I mean, the
Updated
list just
heating
goes on and on, right?
so on and so forth. So it's interesting how it works, and that's why earlier in the conversation I mentioned the crystal ball. It really is. The good news is that with the companies that we work with, including the nationals that we represent, we have a voice. And we're not afraid to use that voice. Just ask the companies that we represent, because they call us when they need to. But, we want to be, we are representing the companies, but we also take a strong stance in being the advocate for our consumer.
Well, they're more likely to listen to you as the agent representing the client, we'll say, okay? Because if the client calls, obviously they're going to assume that the client is going to be like, well, it wasn't my fault. I swear, it really wasn't mine. I mean, if you look at the pictures, you'll see. No, really, it wasn't. They expect that, but you have nothing to gain from it.
No. And the most interesting part, and you bring up a great point to discuss quickly, if I can get that word out, but the perception of fault.
Right.
The perception of fault is always at play here. So when you're talking a third-party accident, so you've got two vehicles that have now hit each other regardless of how they hit each other, both parties are never considering themselves at fault. I am proud of people when they do that, because one of the first things we say is if you get in an accident, do not admit fault. Do not say you're sorry.
Exactly, right.
Let the insurance companies figure that part out. That is what they do. That's why they have licensed insurance adjusters who have to pass state testing to become an adjuster in the state that they work within. So it's good to let them be the determining factor here, but you could still disagree with them,
One thing to note here, because we are just about out of time, okay? It is not only important to not admit fault or to say I'm sorry, like you say, but it is important to not assume and blame somebody at the scene also.
Right. A lot of people,
And
when
that's
they call
hard to
me,
do.
it's very hard to do. And a lot of people, when they call us up to give us the claim, they'll say, well, it wasn't my fault. I was backing up and they ran into me. Typically in the state of Vermont, or in most states, if you're the backing up party, you're the at-fault party. That's almost a guarantee.
With a backup camera or not. So tell them how to get in touch with you.
748-5224. Visit us on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. Online, thebarrettagency.com. Google, Facebook, and YouTube, all Barrett Insurance Agency.
And, of course, Tuesday mornings with the Magic Crew at 8:35. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Have a great day.
Yeah, see if you can find yourself some hand sanitizer. Would you?
I got $50. I can give you some right now. A squirt.
You know where I work.
Yo.
Okay. Music from Imagine Dragons, Selena Gomez, and more coming.